Welcome to the Twisted Pint Tavern. Today we're visiting r/DnD to find out what are the best magic items to give to low-level parties, according to Reddit. It can be hard to balance loot and magic items, especially in the low levels of play, so hopefully this list can help both players and DMs get some fun ideas. First up, we have the Clockwork Amulet from Xanathar's Guide. I personally love this item because it's super cool thematically and has a very useful, yet not at all overpowered function. This copper amulet has tiny gears visible and emits a faint ticking and whirring noise. Once per dawn when you make an attack, you can use the amulet to forego rolling the d20 and automatically get a 10 on the die. So if you have a +4 to hit, that means you'd automatically get a 14 on the attack roll. It's not going to let you auto-hit most big bads, even at low levels, but it can allow you to get that last clutch hit on an orc that's giving your friendly wizard some hassle. Oh, and it doesn't require attunement, so it's something you can carry with you for the whole game. Next is the Hat of Disguise. This one is great for games that rely on more social interactions and roleplay, as it allows a whole slew of possibilities. It's quite simple. When you're attuned to and wearing the hat, you can use an action to cast Disguise Self at will with no use limitations. Now, I've heard some people think this item is too powerful to give to super low-level parties, purely because super creative players can get up to a whole bunch of shenanigans with it. But to be honest, that's where you as a DM just need to be equally creative to either avoid situations where they could abuse it or have systems in place to prevent items like this from turning the tides in high-stakes scenarios. Such as, putting an anti-magic field at the entrance to a royal chamber. Yes, I've done that, and yes, it ended someone's disguise, which of course led to some great RP moments. Up next, we have the Gloves of Missile Snaring. If you've played Baldur's Gate 3, you probably already know what these are. These gloves seem to almost meld into your hand when worn and allow you to use your reaction to attempt to catch arrows and other projectiles right out of the air. Because they use your reaction, you can only do it once per round, and there's still a chance to take damage from the attack, so I think they're pretty balanced. Essentially, you roll 1d10 and add your dexterity modifier, reducing the damage from the ranged attack by that amount. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the missile instead. Pretty great item to allow for some pretty badass moments without totally skewing the balance of a fight, if you ask me. This next one is a great item and totally works with low-level parties, but be careful, DMs. The Immovable Rod is a fun and unique item that quite simply lets you hold the rod in any position and click a button to freeze it there, defying gravity. The rod can support up to 8,000 pounds of weight before falling, so it's a very handy tool. That being said, there are many stories of parties using the Immovable Rod in hilarious, horrifying, or overpowered ways. If you want an example, go watch XP to Level 3's video, Oh No the Rod, where they may accidentally use the rod to fold someone in half and almost destroy an airship. Of course, we can't have a low-level items list without the classic Bag of Holding and Cloak of Protection. I won't go too far into explaining those because I think we all know about them at this point, but the Bag of Holding is great for loot goblins and characters as it allows you to carry a lot more gear, and the Cloak of Protection is good for helping boost a character's armor class. Just be aware, if you give a party a Cloak of Protection intending for it to go to the 12 AC wizard, there's a fair chance it'll still end up in the hands of the 19 AC paladin, meaning you may have just made combat with the pally even harder on yourself. Next is the Alchemy Jug, which is a cool and unique item that lets you pour set amounts of various liquids out of it each day. You can get everything from fresh water to acid out of this multi-corked Zelda pot, but let's be honest, people really only want it for the 2 gallons of mayonnaise each day. The Feather Token is another great one, but be careful, because there are actually 2 items called Feather Token, and they do drastically different things. One is a rare item that can take the shape of various things, each with abilities that may be too powerful for lower levels. The one people often mean when they mention Feather Tokens is the one from Eberron, which is a common item that has a single use, but can literally be life-saving. A feather token is a small metal disc inscribed with the image of a feather, and activates automatically when the creature possessing it falls 20 feet or more. The token's magic is immediately expended, and you slow your descent to 60 feet per round and take 0 fall damage. This is a great item in my opinion because while it is very niche, the number of times it's saved low-level characters from crumbling cliffs and deep pit traps is probably immense. Next up is the Everburning Torch, which, to be completely honest, is just a normal torch with continual flame casts on it. So you might think that's kind of lame and not worth it, but trust me, I don't know what it is, but every single time I give one of my D&D parties a permanent light source, it doesn't matter what level they are, it doesn't matter if they all have dark vision, one of them will always have that thing on them when they're going into dark dungeons, abandoned crypts. Doesn't matter, they love those permanent light sources, even if someone can already cast Continual Flame. So don't be afraid to give this out to your D&D parties. Even at level 1, if you just need a simple mundane magic item to put in a loot hoard, this is something that most people will probably think is pretty cool to come across. Then we have the Eversmoking Bottle, which pretty much does what it says on the tin, but I still think it's a really cool item. Essentially, you uncork this bottle and it spews out this thick, dark smoke in a 60-foot radius, and that radius increases by 10 feet every round until it reaches a maximum of 120 feet. I think that this item's great because while yes, you can use it in an open battlefield to create a heavily obscured area to like cover a retreat or something, I prefer giving it to the sneaky like rogue or assassin when they're going inside somewhere like a castle, because they can just uncork this thing and roll it into a room, and that room gets filled with this really thick dark smoke, so it's practically impossible to see in, and the cloud stays until you close the bottle, which requires its command word and an action. So it's not like some guard can just pick it up and put their hand over it and stop the smoke from coming out. So it's really cool because it lets you change the landscape of those kind of stealth scenes dynamically, which is not something that many players actually get the chance to do outside of spellcasters. Next up is one that actually wasn't on these Reddit lists, but I wanted to make sure it was in the video anyway because I think it's super useful for some characters specifically, and that is the Pearl of Power. The Pearl of Power simply lets you once per day regain a first, second, or third level spell slot, just one. Now to a wizard or a cleric or someone who already has multiple spell slots, this item could either be a little overpowered or a little underwhelming. They may not really need it, or it could push them over that power threshold. But for warlocks specifically, I love this item, because warlocks at low levels only get 2 spell slots. And yes, those spell slots get more powerful as they level up, but the Pearl of Power allows your low-level warlock characters to just cast 1 more spell per day. And that, trust me, they will love you. If you have a player who's running a warlock, ask them, they want more spell slots. If you're running a warlock, you probably want more spell slots. So giving a warlock a Pearl of Power at low levels makes it to where they are just a little bit more on par with the spell casting of some of the other classes. And all in all, it's not gonna make them any more overpowered. And lastly, the Cloak of Billowing. You may be asking, oh, what great magic properties does this cloak possess? It billows. Yeah, it looks cool. You can use a bonus action to make it, quote, billow dramatically. Now, you might be thinking, hang on, every other item on this list has a functional use. This one is just aesthetic, what's the point of having it? And to that I say, you must not have given out a Cloak of Billowing yet. In one of my games, the Paladin has one, and every round that he's not using his bonus action for a smite, which is fairly often since Paladins don't have a lot of bonus action abilities at low levels, he uses that action to make the cloak billow dramatically. Does it help him in combat? No. Does it provide some cool bonus to intimidation checks? Maybe, it depends on the DM. But does it make him feel f***ing sick as he slides down the hillside with a billowing cloak, decapitating the goblin that had 1 hit point left? You're goddamn right it does. But that's where we're gonna end today's video. Thanks for swinging by, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and comment what your favorite magic items to give to low-level parties are. If you're not subscribed already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos, and until next time, safe travels, adventurers. All right, and does that end your turn?
Yep. No. Real quick, I will use my bonus action to make my cloak billow dramatically. Now I'm done.